Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Motor Chaos. This is your host, Dave, and I got in line with me special guest, Mike Racer, rear engine funny car. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
So, first question, Mike. When did you first get involved with drag racing?
My dad was a drag racer when I was a kid, and I made my first pass in his car, a 69 Firebird, when I was 12 years old, and I have been driving drag cars since. I'm 56 now. I did have a little stint in a road course car. I did some SCCA and some IMSA racing, but it wasn't quite the same thrill, and I came back to drag racing.
So, how many cars have you drag raced in throughout your career now?
I want to say I've driven probably 10 different cars total.
Then how many were rear engines?
Let's see. I had a rear engine Toyota pickup truck that was street legal that I used to street race with. I had a 140-inch rear engine dragster that ran in Super Comp. I did that for 2 years, and now I've been in the funny car since 2001.
No wheel stander, you know. I think you would jump on a wheel stander with the rear engine on there.
No, I ran against the wheel stander in our rear engine funny car one time at Lakeland, but I never really had any interest in the wheel standers as far as driving it. It seemed too exhibitionist and not so much, genuine drag racing. There's something about getting the wind light that excites me, and in the wheel stander, it seemed like it was more show than go. So, yeah.
So now with the funny car you're driving now, it's your first funny car. How many years has this been around now?
I started the team from scratch in 1998, and it took me until 2001 to even be able to drive it. It didn't have any body work on it or anything. It looked like a big go-kart. But I towed it to Lakeland, and I ran a 669 at 118 miles an hour on my first run down the 8th mile.
So now, since you've had this car, what's been the quickest time so far?
I ran a 550 at 127 miles an hour in the 8th, and I ran an 880 at 151 miles an hour in the quarter. I know it's not quite stellar, but we are working on speeding it up. I got the new motor in there now, and we're trying to work on our tune-up. I got a couple people helping me. The one guy that really made a difference in my career was Ron Evans. Sadly, he died from leukemia 2 years ago and never really got to see me be as successful as I am now, although I came from a pretty slow start and got into the fives under his watch. And his son, Sean, has been helping me out, as well as Vic Miller. Both of them have a lot of alcohol and nitro experience. So that's been a big help. It's a lot to learn all at once. I mean, I built the car from scratch. I basically taught myself how to drive and couldn't really teach myself how to tune, but I had some good teachers, and I seem to have picked it up. So I'm looking forward to getting in the 4s in the 8th mile. That's our next goal, and into the 7s in the quarter mile. And I'd like to get it up about 175 or so. I think I would be comfortable. I mean, the car, it's a very short in the nose, obviously, and I worry about the safety factor of it. It is legal as a nitro funny car, a top alcohol funny car, a jet car. It's a 10-1E chassis, and it is safe to 300 miles an hour. I have no intention of going that fast in it. But if it's safe to go 300 in and I keep it at 175, it seems like the safety margin and the chances of getting hurt are much less, at least. It's never completely safe, but safer, safe-ish.
So now, for 2017, last year, how many events did you run with this car?
We try to get out 10 events a year. Plus, we throw in a couple of tests and tunes anytime we, make a major change in the car or freshen up the motor or something. I like to take it out and just, do a leak check and make some 8-mile passes or something. But, we try to get out 10 decent events a year, plus a couple of tests and tunes. So usually works out to about once a month, although we usually take off, it's Florida, we usually take off the hottest month or two in the middle of summer. It's really hard to get the crew excited to go and sweat their butts off for free at the drag strip. And then a flurry of activity in the fall and in the winter down here when, our winter the temps are in the 70 and it's just glorious at the races. So, we do like 2 events a month, 3 months in a row. So we have a festive season anyway.
So how'd the car run for you last year?
Pretty good. We haven't really had any major problems with it. I'm a firm believer in a lot of maintenance. I have the valve covers off, every 3 runs, lashing the valves, changing the oil. I'm all over it. Anytime if the compression starts to drop, I change rings and check bearings, and I really try to keep up with it. So reliability-wise, it's pretty good. We did have transmission problems for the first time, and since I switched to this, basically a Power Glide derivative, a Reed case. It was super reliable for several years, and then it started failing one after another, and I got so annoyed with it. I pulled everything out, the torque converter, the transmission, everything, and I drove it to FTI Transmission in DeLand, Florida, and I said, "Make my baby fast." And I left all the stuff there, and they called up a week and a half later, and they said it's all done. So the bill was horrific, and I talked with them, and I told them the same story. We're looking to get in the 4s, and a lot of people are tuned in to see what we're doing, and they're really curious about our car, and what's the chances of running some decals from your company and telling everybody what a great job that you did, and when we get in the 4s, you'll get some notoriety off it. And lo and behold, they told me that you pay for the parts, and we'll take care of everything else. And they made me a really good deal and loaded me up with T-shirts and decals. And so, yeah, we actually got a little medium sponsorship out of the deal. So that was pretty exciting. It's kind of unplanned. If you plan stuff like that, it never works out. It just sort of happened. I was in the right place at the right time,
Yeah. So now, besides you and Dustin Corner, are there any other rear-engine funny cars out there?
There are a couple more. I'm not sure all the exact names, but there is a car called Lethal Injection that's out on the West Coast. I want to say Arizona, and it is an injected nitro car, no blower, kind of similar to ours, although we're mostly alcohol. And he gets out every couple of years with it. He's not a big player, but the car is absolutely beautiful, and that is also a Survivor car, same as Dustin's car. Those are both Survivor cars from the 70s. Our car, to the best of my knowledge, was the last rear-engine funny car ever built. I had that chassis custom built in 1998. And I know there's a couple of guys out there that make fun of it and call it a chopped-off dragster, but Billy, I'm talking to you, that couldn't be further from the truth. That car was designed and built as a 10-1E rear-engine funny car chassis. It was never anything else. I bought it brand new, and I worked with the builder as part of the design. We pushed the roll cage back towards the motor and made it so that the driver's compartment was a little bigger and therefore a little safer with more crush compartment, but I had to compromise the chance to put any kind of blower drive on the front of the motor. So our car will always be an injected car. It was actually built to run when IHRA allowed nitro-injected funny cars to run in the top alcohol category, but that class kind of came and went by the time I got it together. And it's so expensive to run in that class that it's a little beyond my budget anyway. So we kind of settled into the B fuel, the alky injected, although we are completely set up to run 25% nitro, and I actually have the nitro. And we're running April 18th at Showtime in Clearwater. And if we get 2 clean passes and everything looks good, I'm bringing the nitro with me, and the 3rd pass will be on 25% nitro, and we should set some real good career best that night. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be our next adventure.
Yeah, you were telling me some your car shoots flames out of it.
Oh yeah, we also have a flamethrower exhaust system that I worked with Rocky Perone, the Screaming Eagle funny car, and I basically have the same setup that he has on his cars. So you can flip a switch and turn on the spark plugs. But the spark plugs alone don't make the flames. It's a combination of fuel additives and some nitro and the spark plugs. It's like a 3-piece recipe that makes the header flames. But yeah, it makes a good 3-foot header flame. So I can't wait to try that out. We need a night event to do that. So.
Yeah. So now, let's talk about your car now. Tell us what kind of car it is and all that now.
What kind of car? It's a 69 Corvair funny car body. I had that custom built, and I waited over 4 years for it. Mr. Pat Scher, God rest his soul, bought one of the old Seton Shaker bodies and modified it. It had the wrong roof on it. It was a late model Corvair with an early model roof on it. So he cut off the roof and searched the country for the right parts and pieced it all together and adjusted the wheelbase and got it to where he was happy with it. And he made a mold off of it, off the seat and shaker body, which was too heavy to be used the way it was. I mean, it was an old Survivor body. And he made a mold off it and made 2 bodies out of that mold and sold everything to Don Hudson in California. Pat sure got pancreatic cancer and left us before he ever saw the car run. But I had promised him before he died that I would buy that body no matter what. I was one of the main reasons that he took on the process of buying one and making a mold and making the bodies and everything. He never actually got to see it run, but he sold everything to Don Hudson and told him that I was one of the potential buyers. And I contacted Don Hudson when I was ready, and he knew all about the deal. He said, yes, Pat sure explained everything to me. And I bought the body from Don and had it shipped across country and got it here and set it on our chassis. And, of course, nothing lined up. All the wheel wells were in the wrong spot because it was a front-engine body on a rear-engine car. So me and my buddy John cut the wheel wells and scooched them back a little bit and adjusted the wheelbase and everything and got it together. And I ran it in white primer for a season just to make sure that it was stable and aerodynamically sound and everything. And then we started hunting for a paint job color. The Corvette body that I ran previous was Hugger Orange, a nice Chevrolet color. Everything on the car is Chevrolet. But I didn't want to just make it orange again. I was afraid that with as much effort and money as we put into switching it from a Corvette to a Corvair, that if we painted it the same color, a lot of people might not even notice the difference. So I searched around and I did Googled muscle car colors from the 1960s and kept looking at them and I said, yeah, yellow. I've never had a yellow race car. Let's do yellow. And I shopped around with a couple of people. Al Meadows, that did some artwork for us, said yellow would be a great color. So we went with the yellow, and I wasn't really sure what to expect other than it was going to be different and bright. And it sure came out looking good. Every time I open the trailer and look at it, it makes my heart feel good to look at it and say, oh, that was a great choice.
So now you mentioned Don Hudson. You're talking about the Beachcomber driver, right?
Yes, Don Hudson drives the Beachcomber car. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
he was a big help. He really facilitated me getting the Corvair body. He built a crate so that the body could be forklifted on and off trucks so that the shipping costs would be less. It didn't have to be handled. It could just be forklifted. So, yeah, he made the crate and bolted it down, and, yeah, he did a great job. It was so easy to work with. And, I heard a rumor that he actually took the second body that came out of that mold and modified it and made another mold, and he is going to produce a carbon fiber 69 Corvair body. Mine weighs about 200 pounds. I heard that the carbon fiber one is stronger and weighs 88 pounds, and it is set up for a 40-inch overhang like our car, like most of the modern cars, and a 125-inch wheelbase. So it will fit all the front-engine cars out there as is without having to go through what I went through with ours, So I can't wait to see a couple more of them out there.
So now what kind of engine you got in that car?
It's a 496 cubic inch big block Chevy with aluminum heads. And the aluminum heads, while they're not the greatest performance ever, they are extremely rare, which is what attracted me to them in the first place. I got them from a monster truck team, and they are Warren Johnson Pro Stock heads from the 1980s. So they're actually pretty cool. Like I said, the modern technology, the flow on the new heads is better than anything from back in the early 80s. But the nostalgia factor and the rarity of them attracted me to them, and I've been running them ever since. I am in the market for some new cylinder heads. I want some nice solid billet heads this time around with some real high flow numbers. Really perk up our performance.
So what kind of tires do you have on the car?
We run M&H slicks. We try to bill our car as a nostalgia funny car, and M&H was one of the pioneers back in the 60s and 70s. And they are still in business, and we love them. We, our car carries the front wheel 6 inches higher, so out 100 feet or so. So, I mean, the traction is there. The M&H is very nostalgic and, really works with the period correctness of the car, if you will. And they make me a really good deal. They're really nice to work with. And they really hold up. We get 3 full seasons out of them and then sell them to some bracket racers that get a little more life out of them. So, yeah, they've been real good. I tried Goodyears and Hoosiers The